Indian Union Budget 2022 was delivered by our Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on February 1st. And what I read is India's GDP is projected to grow by 8 to 8.5% in 2022-2023, and it was around 9.2% in 2021-2022. So it will be definitely very interesting to listen live from our prominent speaker and hear the expert opinion. At the same time, we are pleased to inform that Indo-American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Houston and Indo-American Chamber of Commerce of Dallas and Fort Worth has also collaborated with us for this event. And also we have our Consul General of India, Houston, Aseem Mahajan as our special guest. And at the same time, we are also celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav Festival on the occasion of India's 75th Independence Day. So I just shared our agenda for the day. So now let me go over it very quickly. So now we will have Jagdip Ahluwalia ji, Executive Director of Indo-American Chamber. He will introduce our CGI Houston, and then it will be followed by our CGI's remarks. And then we will go to our budget session, which will be like very first speaker will be CA TN Manoharan ji. He will speak on Indian economy and key sectors. CA Ved Jain ji will speak on taxation, direct and indirect taxes. Chandrima Sinha ji will from Invest India. She will speak on investment and incentives for startups, manufacturing, and foreign investors. And at the same time, last but not the least, we will have our ex-president Indo-American Chamber and practicing CPA, Swapan Dhairyawan ji. He will address some of the common questions we have related to Indo-US tax filings related, some general guidelines. And also we will have a short Q&A session at the end. You can ask any questions, generic questions, not personal questions or tax situations to our panelists. And it will be followed by Raja Chalasani ji, is our vice chairman. He will give a vote of thanks. So all over to you, Jagdip ji.
Thank you very much, Pawan ji. On behalf of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Houston, our sister chamber in Dallas, and ICAI, I have the pleasure and privilege of introducing Consul General Aseem Mahajan, who joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1998. Prior to assuming charge as Consul General of India in Houston in January of 2020, he was the Ambassador of India to the World Trade Organization in Geneva. Earlier, he has served as the Deputy High Commissioner in the Indian Mission in Kuala Lumpur and Dhaka, and as the Consul General of India, Osaka, Japan. He has also served in Indian missions in Tokyo, Vientiane, and Laos. He has a master's degree in diplomatic studies from the University of Oxford in the UK, a master's degree in management studies from the Birla Institute of Technology and Sciences, Pilani in India. Since his arrival in January 2020, despite the COVID pandemic, he has very successfully helped connect businesses and government leaders in India with businesses and leaders in our region, and has hosted a series of virtual meetings with the 8 states in his jurisdiction. He has helped bring focus on areas of common interest, and he believes in result-oriented meetings. We are privileged to have known him since his arrival, and the Chamber has worked very closely with him. It is now my honor and privilege to invite Consul General of India in Houston, the Honorable Aseem Mahajan, to make brief remarks. On to you, Consul General Mahajan.
Thank you, Jagdip ji. Good morning to all of you who are joining from United States, and good evening to those joining from India, distinguished panelists, all friends joining at this event on the budget being organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants Houston Chapter in partnership with multiple other people, including the chambers. What I'm going to do, of course, is give you a brief overview of what we are doing, our relationship. As two vibrant democracies, having open and multicultural societies, commonalities in culture and shared values, India and United States are natural partners. Our comprehensive strategic partnership is broad-based with growing engagement in areas like energy, defense, security, trade and investment, and people-to-people contacts. India shares a very strong connect with this part of United States with a very vibrant Indian-American community who are strong pillars in our bilateral relationship and deepening of our multifaceted ties. As was mentioned earlier, India is celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav to commemorate 75 years of progressive India and the glorious history of our people, culture, and achievements. The themes for these celebrations include our freedom struggle, achievements at 75, ideas at 75, actions at 75, and resolves at 75 to work for the growth and development of India. At the consulate, we are working with multiple stakeholders to plan and organize various events, including events to deepen the India-US partnership in many areas, including trade, investment, technology, and education. And we are also planning various other cultural events to showcase the rich cultural heritage of India and various community initiatives. I take this opportunity to mention briefly about some of our events, but as all of you are aware, India's national education policy offers immense potential to deepen our connect in the area of education and knowledge partnership. We are working with multiple educational and research institutions in this part of the United States for building institutional linkages, promoting exchanges, joint research, and collaborations with institutions in India. To promote trade and investment, the consulate has organized many events, as was mentioned by Jagdip ji. We are working with many stakeholders, including states in southern United States, who are our partners for deepening this connect. We are working with trade bodies, with chambers, with institutes. And in the recent past, we have organized various events in joint partnership with the states of Texas, Colorado, Arkansas, New Mexico, Nebraska. And in the coming year, we are planning with the states of Kansas and Oklahoma. Why I am mentioning this is because each of these states has a unique economy and they are very large in size. Texas alone is a $1.9 trillion economy. So the opportunities are immense. I want to kick off this discussion with a few slides of the budget, which will, of course, you are going to get into an in-depth discussion and you have a very rich panel, which is going to share with you various areas in depth. But let me just give you some brief insight into what the recent budget has offered. And so to begin with, of course, as India's economic growth is estimated to be 9.2%. The budget has The budget has continued to grow on these four pillars, and I think each of these four priorities from 75 till India at 100, which includes PM's Gati Shakti, the inclusive development, productivity in sunrise sectors, and energy transition, offer immense opportunities, including for deepening this connect with United States. One of the areas on which we are working with United States is trade and, as I said, is technology. Technology and innovation are key drivers of this budget. Under PM's Gati Shakti, another area is infrastructure. Infrastructure and these multimodal links which are there. We have the National Infrastructure Pipeline, which is also an immense opportunity for investments for institutional investors here. We have organized various interactions on that front as well. But the 7 engines that drive the PM Gati Shakti are roads, railways, airports, ports, transport, waterways, and logistics infrastructure. And I'm mentioning these areas because I think these are areas which offer immense potential for our partners here in United States. So let me, next. Startups is one area I want to bring in a little focus on this area because, as I mentioned, technology and innovation are key drivers in our partnership. We have in the recent past organized a big event on startups with many partners, and it was joined by many investors, venture capitalists, many people who are investing in India and stalwarts from the industry. We, in the coming year, are also planning various initiatives in this area. I'm sure the panelists will take time to highlight some of the key provisions in the budget in this area, but At the same time, I also wish to mention that this is an ongoing initiative of the consulate. So please do look out for our events in this area in the coming year as we plan various events under Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. The budget provisions, of course, have been highlighted, which include various areas for unparalleled growth in this sector and continuing of tax benefits and various other initiatives. Another area which is focused on in the budget and I wish to highlight is the sunrise opportunities. As you can see, government has announced various R&D provisions for in sunrise sectors like artificial intelligence, geospatial systems and drones, semiconductors, space economy, and genomics and pharmaceuticals, which is again a big area of partnership here. Next. And Houston is the energy capital here, and I wanted to show you this slide essentially for this reason. We are on the energy front. We are planning various events, including in the area of new and renewable energy. Our energy partnership has already grown from a scratch to $20 billion. We have various companies partnering in both India and United States for transfer of technology investments, and there is a very vast opportunity in this area. The budget, of course, has several provisions for energy transition and climate change, including additional production-linked incentive schemes for solar modules, use of biomass, and other areas. So I wanted to show these slides essentially to highlight some of the focus areas and bring them in sync on what this part of United States offers in terms of opportunities. As I have earlier mentioned, areas like energy, healthcare and medical research, technology, information communication technologies, logistics, infrastructure, these areas offer tremendous opportunities for American investors to partner with us. I have already mentioned earlier that in the coming year, we have a very rich calendar of events to celebrate Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, including with our chambers here, with the states here. So I do hope that all of you will support us for these events and please join us for these events. And finally, I also wish to mention that while we do not have the time to go in depth and connect individually, in case you need any further information or you need to connect with this part of United States or plan investments here, the consulate offers multiple services on that front. Do reach out to us. I look forward to this very engaging conversation, and I'm sure you people will find it very useful for their plans and also for growing trade and investment between both countries. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, and both with the Indo-American Chamber of Greater Houston and with various chapters of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, we look forward to partnering for more events together. We should organize more such interactions on various themes as the year rolls out, and reach out to our various partners for partnering and share with them what Government of India is doing in terms of these transformational measures of doing ease of business and making India a country which will be the destination of the future for growing foreign investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Aseem ji. So for your remarks, and thank you, Aseem ji, for your remarks. And it was a very detailed presentation. In fact, you have covered many important points from the budget. And also, we look forward to have more interactions with you and your different chambers. And as promised, we'll try to bring in more programs and experts from India, and so that we can collaborate and have a great partnership between India and US. So now going to our next program, let me invite CA TN Manoharan for his presentation. So let me introduce CA TN Manoharan. So at the same time, who doesn't know CA TN Manoharan? Till now, I was only reading his books written by him, but now I am taking this opportunity to introduce him. And So Manoharan ji was born in a freedom fighters family with agriculture as the occupation. He is chartered accountant of 38 years of standing. He is also a law graduate, and he has authored books for professional and students on taxation. Manoharan ji has many accomplishments and chairmanships in his lifetime. He was the president of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India during 2006 and 7. He was a part of government nominated board of Satyam Computers from 2009 to 2012. He also served as on the committee of accounting standards of CII during 2009 and 11. He was also a chairman of Canara Bank for 5 years up to August 2020. CA Manoharan is also currently a member of RBI Standing External Advisory Committee for evaluating applications for Universal Bank. He is also on the board of Mahindra and Mahindra and Tech Mahindra. At the same time, Manoharan ji has also addressed training program at Nagpur Academy on direct taxes, many reputed foreign universities such as Chicago University, Warwick University, and Queensland University in Australia. Manoharan ji is also a recipient of several awards, including CNN IBN Indian of the Year 2009 from our Prime Minister of India then. Also, Manoharan ji was conferred as Padma Shri Award by President of India in April 2010. All over to you, Manoharan ji. It's our privilege that you are here, and thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Very pleasant good morning to those who have joined from US. CA Pawan Sharda, Chairman of the Houston Chapter. Our distinguished Chief Guest, Consul General of India, Mr. Aseem Mahajan ji. Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, Executive Director, Mr. Jagdip Ahluwalia. My colleagues who are going to share their rich experience and knowledge, Ved Jain and Chandrima and Swapan. It's my privilege to participate in this program and address all of you on the economic aspects or macro level aspects, and also some of the key important sectors. You would have noticed that the current Finance Minister of India, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, has presented this fourth budget of us, Indian budget, fourth consecutive year. And this is the shortest duration of her speech, 90 minutes. But this budget doesn't cover just 1 year or 1 decade. This is intended to extend for 25 years. That is India, which is at 75 now, independent India. This budget aims to accomplish many things and lay a roadmap for India 100. So for the centenary year. And another unique feature of this budget presentation is, unlike the earlier years, there was no disruption in the presentation, nor any interruption during the speech. That explains the veracity of the budget, in the sense, though there are impending elections in 5 states, and in spite of the fact that people were expecting a lot of populistic measures, this budget did not compromise on economic well-being of the nation as well as the people. And therefore, robust measures, long-term initiatives have been announced as part of this budget. As all of us are aware, India is close to $3 trillion size, nominal size. In fact, just prior to the COVID, we even overtook UK to be the 5th largest. But unfortunately, because of the pandemic derailment last 2 years, we slightly slipped or passed, and therefore we have become 6th largest, with the US being 23 trillion, China 17 trillion, followed by Japan, Germany, UK, and we are there. And in terms of purchase power parity, we are third largest GDP. But the greatest strength of Indian economy way forward is going to be the demographic advantage. Because, 65% of the population is below 35 years. And if only this population can be empowered with the knowledge, skill sets, soft skills, managerial skills, professional skills, then it is going to bring a lot of demographic dividend to the economy. Otherwise, it can be demographic disaster. And therefore, this budget also focuses a lot on skilling and education. The strength of Indian economy is the jam trinity. Because even those who were unconnected with the banking system, they were brought into the financial inclusion plan by making them open the Jan Dhan Yojana accounts. And today we have 45 crores, that is 450 million accounts under this category, which enables even the government to make direct transfers without any pilferage. And even in these accounts, the balance as on date is 1,47,000 crores. And the next is the Aadhaar connectivity, identity, unique identity. 99% of the 135 crores population, 1.35 billion population is having this Aadhaar identity. Almost everybody, barring exceptions. And then mobile connectivity. The mobile phone holders is 1.18 billion in India, and internet users 700 billion, smartphone users 600 billion. So, and it is the largest consumer market India presents to the rest of the world. So no global investing community, no multinational entity can afford to ignore India for its own prosperity and growth. So with this kind of a background, as the Consul General rightly pointed out, and also the chairman narrated, we are expected to grow 8 to 8.5% in the next year. But current year, amazingly, in spite of the fact that we were hit by the second wave from April to June of this financial year, and January, we are now undergoing the third wave. We are recording 9.2%, which is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And inflation, debt, all these things are under control, and forex reserves are quite impressive because gradually with the visionary approach, the exports are growing and imports are diminishing, especially on the defense front. Of course, fiscal deficit is last year, financial year 21, it was 9.2, but financial year 22, it is just 6.9. And next year, it is going to be only 6.4%. And in another 3 years, it is going to be brought well within 4.5%. And though the divestment target in the past was not all that achievable, in fact, one factor we must always keep in mind is the pandemic has imposed on the government spending for vaccination and also food supply, food grain supply to the impacted downtrodden on one hand. And on the other hand, the disinvestment targets could not be reached. But in spite of these two setbacks, the buoyancy in the economy came, contributing to this 9.2%, primarily because of increase in the tax revenues on one hand, and stringent measures for cutting expenditure across by the government. So these have provided the compensating advantage so that the fiscal deficit could be restricted to 6.9%, and government is confident of controlling it to 6.4%. Where from the rupee comes as per the budget estimates and where it is expected to go. While everything seems to be fine, the only point I would like to highlight is look at the inflow. 35 paise out of every rupee, 35% of every rupee that comes in on account of borrowings and other liabilities, which is a burden on the economy. And look at where the rupee goes. 20 paise, that is 1/5 of the inflow is diverted for interest payments. So this is one area which the government is conscious about and working on. And when it comes to, the priorities, the Consul General rightly highlighted the 4 priorities. The same 4 priorities, for convenience, I have split it into 6 priorities. And the primary driving engine is going to be huge capex expenditure by the government, public expenditure on infrastructure. That is expected to generate demand, that is expected to generate employment, and that is expected to generate purchase power capacity. And therefore, there will be supply increase in productivity, and there will be increase in income, and therefore there will be savings as well as investments. So that virtuous cycle will be triggered and accelerated by these priorities if they are properly channelized and implemented. Now, when it comes to agriculture, many initiatives, especially, on the technology side, like even using the drones for the purpose of, Kisan drones for the purpose of crop assessment, land records, etc. Similarly, another path-breaking initiative, first of its kind in the last 75 years, is the endeavor to implement Ken Batwa link project, which is linking 5 rivers in different states. And this is going to be another path-breaking effort to make many of the unirrigated lands very fertile in future if this is accomplished. And in addition, further on the infrastructure and railways, many, as the PM Gati Shakti scheme, there are 7 driving engines in terms of the government's priority and allocation. That is roads, railways, airports, ports, mass transport, waterways, and logistic infra. So these 7 driving engines will not only they'll be established, but they will also be logically interconnected and integrated so that there is seamless movement of goods and people. The transportation becomes seamless and well integrated, and the cost of logistics, transportation of goods and passengers becomes very efficient and competitive. Now, when it comes to, the next segment, which I would like, and even on the railways, in terms of railways, the allocation has gone up so that, the railways will be able to manufacture and produce world-class rail compartments and coaches, and the passenger experience is improved phenomenally. 400 new Vande Bharat trains to be manufactured and launched, and the efficient movement of goods through different modes, reducing logistic cost is going to be a boom for the manufacturing sector as well, which is experiencing a lot of supply chain difficulties and bottlenecks in the present scenario. Now, coming to the banking sector, in terms of the banking sector, it is going to be quite easy for exit mechanism, either resolution of the debt or dissolution of the company or exiting from the management. So these rules are going to be liberalized. And our Reserve Bank of India has been is expected to release a digital currency to facilitate a smooth settlements, trade and operations. And landmark initiative is converging or bringing 1.5 lakh post offices, 150,000 post offices across the country into the core banking system, so that people in rural India, farmers, everybody who are having post office saving accounts can now converge it into the banking system as well. So banks and post offices, that collaborative effort is going to promote further financial inclusion. In terms of real estate, again, households for all, through that initiative, now they are contemplating to create and provide 80 lakh households for the affordable, under the affordable housing scheme. And in terms of water supply, already for 8.7 crores, the targeted households who have to be provided water supply, 5.5 crores have been accomplished in the last 2 years. And this year, the budget allocation is to the tune of $8 billion, which will ensure reaching out to 3.8 crores of households in the coming financial year. So, the basic needs are sought to be taken care. Now, health is another, pharmaceutical industry has been identified as the sunrise industry also. In fact, under the FDI regulations, it is now moved to 100% direct investment. FDI investment can come under automatic route. And the kind of, the way India has managed in the last 2 years, the first wave, then the second wave, and currently the third wave is phenomenal. And it has given a fillip to, without impacting so much on the economic activity, but at the same time ensuring safety and health of the people. The entire health mechanism and infrastructure has been put to effective use, and a lot of investment has gone in to make it very robust and very competitive. But still, we have a long way to go. That is why the allocations and the, making it, for example, telemental health centers of excellence are sought to be installed, because that is the need of the hour and that is the way forward. So that the mental, emotional balance is also secured, not only physical health. So, and 95% of the 112 aspirational districts that have been identified have made significant progress in health infrastructure, and the others are progressively being attended to. Now, moving on to education. As I mentioned, in terms of demographic advantage, we can say India is a young India, because the median age of Indian population is 28.1 years. The median age of Chinese population is 38.4 years. The median age of Japanese population is 48.4 years. So 28 is the median age of India's population. So we can boast that India has a young population. But can we say it is a healthy population? Can we say it is a skilled population? So that is where we have a long way to go. And that is why both health and education have been given due importance in this budget. And this pandemic scenario where lockdowns were imposed, children could not go and attend schools, and therefore classes were held online. But how many could afford to attend online with infrastructure that is required? So for the rural students and also the government schools, the government is now come out with innovative ideas, so that, one class, one TV channel program, 200 channels will be provided, and by multiple modes, through mobile, through radio, through television, through internet, the digital education will be delivered even in regional languages. And the teachers also will be empowered and skilled in this regard. So from that perspective, I think the national skill qualification framework is getting aligned with the whatever is the modern industry needs. So that today, if you take, or in the past, the major issue with regard to this young India is lack of skill and knowledge. So they were unemployable. But if these measures are implemented, we can transform many of the unemployable into employable, skilled manpower. So from that perspective, the visionary proposals need to be looked at. Then moving on to MSME, this is one sector which has been greatly impacted, adversely impacted, and therefore emergency credit line schemes have been extended and enhanced for covering and supporting MSMEs, and revamping the credit guarantee for the micro and small enterprises to the tune of 2 lakh crores, equivalent to US dollars 26 billion, has been also sanctioned. So MSMEs are expected to be taken care and provided with the integration of the portals under disconnected portals like Udayam, eShram, NCS, Aseem portals. They will all get interlinked so that they will enable credit facilitation, skilling, recruitment, with a aim to further formalize the economy and enhance entrepreneurial opportunities for all. And they will also enable database, organic database, providing G2C, B2C and B2B services. So with this kind of an outlook, let me now again go to a big picture. I was mentioning India is 6th largest. Now, if you look at the top 10 countries, in terms of GDP size, what is encouraging for India is in terms of competitive index, global innovation index, ease of doing business. We have come a long way. Ease of doing business, we were 142nd rank 6 years ago. We moved to 130, then 100, then 77. Now we are 63rd ranked. And global innovation index, we are 46th rank. And in competitive index, we are 43rd rank. But what needs to be addressed and where we are lacking behind, which is the focus for this long-term vision pronounced in this budget, is the Human Development Index, where we are 131st rank, happiness index, and healthcare access. And more importantly, the per capita income. You look at all the 10 economies, top 10 GDP nations I've put on this chart. India is the lowest, $2,116, whereas China is 11,891. That is the second lowest. But all other countries are nowhere nearby. They're all in 35,000, 45,000, 50,000. And US is GDP per capita is $69,000. And we are ranked 145th in terms of nominal size, and even in purchase power parity, we are 128th rank. So a long way to go. And that is where, this inclusive growth and aspirational India, bringing in digital measures and connecting, even in terms of land registration, this budget talks of one country, one registration. Anywhere, anybody can register any land piece in India. So that kind of a reform is brought so that, there is harmonious growth and across the, and even Northeast regions which are backward are being addressed. And there are many shining aspects about the Indian economy, as all of you can appreciate. IT industry sector in India is growing at 10%, whereas the global growth is 3 to 4%. And the infrastructure I have already mentioned, and third largest ecosystem in startups. Out of 1,400 startups, 83 have turned unicorns. So last year alone, 44 have become unicorns. And the underlying philosophy of Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, Finance Minister's approach by increasing the capex expenditure of the government to 7.5 lakh crores. That is 35% increase in the capital expenditure is to generate, create infrastructure, generate demand, productivity, all that, mainly because understanding the psychology of the people in the present context. So look at the household savings. It has gone up phenomenally by 7 lakh crores, whereas debt has gone up by only 18,000 crores. And even in Jan Dhan Yojana accounts, in 9 months, 45 crores have been deposited, which means due to pandemic scenario, people are resisting to spend. They are in a saving mentality because for rainy day. So till pandemic scenario gets over, this is going to be the psychology. Therefore, the finance minister has cut down many of the subsidies and freebies and all that prudently, and want to divert it for capital expenditure, public expenditure, so that will lead to growth of cement, steel, all allied industries, job opportunities, and that will be a productive way of developing and placing money in the hands of the people who get employed in those projects. And defense procurement allocation will be 68% domestic, as against 58%, and highest GST collections in the January 22, 1,40,000 crores, equivalent to 18 billion US dollars, and highest exports in the 2021, 301 billion, and FDI inflow is 82 billion. And actually, many people thought India will collapse because of the lack of adequate medical facilities and the COVID situation. But look at the resilience India has demonstrated. It has successfully vaccinated 1.6 crore vaccinations it has administered in the last 2 years, and it was not dependent on other countries for importing vaccination. It is manufactured within India. Not only manufactured in India, it has even exported to the 98 countries. So, and from that perspective, I want to end by drawing your attention to what happened on last Sunday. I don't know how many of you noticed the Australian Open tennis Grand Slam tournament. Rafael Nadal, who was ranked 5th in the final, was down by 2 sets, 6-2 and 7-6. And third set, he was on the brink of losing in straight sets, because the opponent, who was second seed, was not only 2 sets up, but also had 3 consecutive break points for 4-2 lead in the third set. But Nadal saved all those 3 break points, and that was the beginning of a historic comeback. And it was an epic performance on tennis court in the form of Rafael Nadal summoning reserves of energy we did not even know existed to notch a thumping record-breaking victory. And by that, he became again another record holder of 21 Grand Slam titles among men. India is going to also demonstrate the same resilience in overcoming this pandemic situation. It has already demonstrated, and even in terms of economic growth, the resilience is going to continue. And with this visionary approach and the budget allocations and the technological implementation and involvement, I'm very confident that India is going to create history in terms of galloping to be one of the powerful nations, powerful economies. The 19th century belonged to Europe, 20th century belonged to US. I can say with a courage of conviction that 21st century will belong to India. Thank you very much for your patience.
You are mute. Mr. Pawan, you're mute.
Yeah. Thank you, Manoharanji, for your detailed presentation. In fact, I have no words how to express my thanks to you because of this detailed insight about the Indian economy. And I'm sure I will watch this presentation one more time. But let me read some couple of messages that I received on my WhatsApp while you were presenting. So someone writes that nice to learn of the ambitious roadmap through Manoharan's lens, which many of us wouldn't have picked otherwise. Great choice to have him as a speaker. Manoharanji is just awesome. I have always read his book, and listening to him in this forum is just amazing. Manoharanji is helping us to understand the big picture behind the budget. So these are the kind words which we received while you were presenting. Thank you very much one more time. So now I invite Ved Jain ji for our next presentation. So let me introduce Ved Jain ji one more time. So Ved Jain ji is a man of prudence, veracity, and intelligence, and he has many academic accolades since his childhood. Mr. Jain is also a fellow CA member for more than 4 decades and was elected as a president of the CA Institute in 2008. And Ved Jain ji has authored many books on direct taxes and regularly contributes articles on tax matters in various journals and different publications. Under his tenure as a president, there were many milestone moments for the CA Institute, like Memorandum of Understanding between India and CA Institute of England and Wales. And there was a mutual recognition of each other's qualification. So at the same time, Ved Jain ji is a founder member of Indian Institute of Corporate Affairs, an academic institute set up by Ministry of Corporate Affairs for capacity building and training in various subjects. He has been a board member of International Federation of Accountants during 2008 and 11. IFAC is a global organization for the accountancy profession with its 138 members and 20 associates in 123 countries. So on the corporate forum, he has been a chairman committee on direct taxes from ASSOCHAM from 2004 to 2015 and vice president during 2015 and 17. He has been a director on the board of National Aluminium Company Limited, NALCO, PTC India Limited, PTC Financial Services, and ICAI Accounting Research Foundation. He was appointed as a government nominated director on the board of Maitas Infra Limited and Maitas Properties Limited post Satyam episode. Presently, he is a director on the board of DLF Limited, Inventure Healthcare Limited, and chairman of MCX Clearing Corporation Limited. Ved Jain ji is a practicing professional with specialization in direct taxes, expertise in income tax, special emphasis on tax planning, tax litigation, and tax advisory for multinational corporate houses. I hereby welcome Mr. Ved Jain to share his thoughts and give us some insight about the Indian budget from a taxation perspective. All over to you, Ved Jain ji.
Thank you, Pawan. Chief guest of the day, Consul General Shri Aseem Mahajan ji, Chairman Houston Chapter Mr. Pawan Sharda, Chairman Indo American Chamber of Commerce Mr. Jagdip Ahluwalia, my fellow panelist and very dear friend from whom I learned a lot, Mr. TN Manoharan, Ms Chandrima Sinha, Mr. Swapan Dhairyawan, and my brothers and sisters and professional colleagues from Houston who are participating in this Budget 2020 program. A very good morning from here in India, where at this time is a very late evening. Good evening, good morning, friends. It's my pleasure to be part of this program, being invited to share my thoughts on Budget 2022 with a perspective of taxation. Shri TN Manoharan ji just explained about the visionary budget presented by the Honorable Finance Minister on 1st of February 2022. She presented this budget for almost 90 minutes. As Mr. TN Manoharan said, it was a shorter speech in the last 4 years, which she has given here. But I would just like to take you back in the circumstances in which this budget would have been prepared and presented. We all know the year 2021 and 21-22 have been suffered, and there have been pandemic impact. The budget preparations start somewhere in August, September, and at that point of time, India had just come out of the second wave. And somewhere in November and December, probably it was not clear that what is going to happen to the third wave, the uncertainty which was prevailing there. And in the month of January, when the budget, I think, was being given the final touches almost, the third wave was on. The Bombay was very seriously affected, and Delhi was also affected, and other parts of the country were going to affected. And look at this, on 1st February 2022, when she was standing in the parliament, it was looking like that the third wave is going on. And in this uncertainty, a finance minister to present a budget which is a balancing exercise of income and expenditure, to estimate what is going to be in 2022-23, how difficult this exercise was. Despite this, everyone from all sectors, you could see television channel, press, media, etc. In the month of January, everyone was asking concession one after the others. And one of the surprise was, even best of the placed people were saying, please reduce tax rate. I heard many people asking, bring down individual rate, personal tax rate, when corporate tax rate have been brought down. All people saying, increase exemptions, increase deductions. I just used to wonder from where the money is going to come. In case these tax rates are reduced, how this shortfall will be filled in. And this was a very compulsion. And of course, as Manoharan said, 5 states going for elections, and budget is normally used and exercised to raise populistic measure, etc. But hats off to the finance minister. She did not succumb to any pressure, and the budget which she presented was a budget which gave stability, credibility, transparency, digitization, and that is the budget which she presented. The various sectors Mr. Manoharan has explained, and time permitting, I will just take a few issues on that point later on. Look at the way she has worked out the numbers. She says that my budget estimate for the year 22-23 is going to be bigger than the 21-22, despite uncertainties. The revenue collection, though in the 21-22 have been impressive, but she did not take credit of the 22-23. And she said, yes, we will still borrow to spend money on capital expenditure. One of the items probably you would have noticed was that India incurred an expenditure of 5.5 lakh crore on capital expenditure. And her proposal says in 22-23, it is going to be 7.5 lakh crore, $100 billion on capital expenditure she is going to do. This is the bold, and that's why I say it is a visionary budget laid down for the next 25 years. And I'm reasonably sure this budget is going to change the landscape, horizon, and India's position world over in next decade itself. The way she has worked out, I will just first run through the various proposals in taxation which she has worked out, and then come to the other issues if you know. As I said, no change in tax rates. Everybody is saying tax rate. She said no, stability has to be given, credibility has to be given to the system, and there is no need to bring the down tax rate. And why there was no need, I will say to you. You see, India today has corporate tax rate of 15% for new companies setting up manufacturing. Now, I believe this 15% corporate tax rate is the lowest in the world. Nowhere in any part of the world, except I think believe in Singapore, which has most of the manufacturing, the rates are as low as 15%. There is no other tax on that part. And for that also, she extended the period by 1 year, because the law says as existing that the unit has to be set up by 31st March 2023. And she has extended this period to 31st March 2024. And one thing very important is, in case any company sets up before 31st March 24 has start production, then the benefit of this 15% tax is not for a limited period, it's an unlimited period. That's a tax rate only. In addition thereto, what she did was that long-term capital gain, which was subject to a surcharge of 37%. So if, because my topic, as a non-resident, you may be concerned when you have any investment in India, maybe any shares, security, or other thing, etc., which are not listed. And if your income goes beyond 5 crore, then the tax surcharge rate was 37%, which she has reduced to 15%. Now, this may be good for, because this is for all resident and non-resident. So if you have any investment back in India, and if you intend to sell and your income is likely to exceed rupees 2 crore, so my suggestion will be to wait up to 1st April 2022 when the new rates comes into operations. So that's the one rate change. A small change which he has made, which may be relevant for you, is regarding the dividend from a foreign company. In the year 2012, the then finance minister said, many of the Indian companies have set up subsidiary companies abroad. And there is a need that these companies should repatriate the dividend, the profit they have earned by way of dividend to India. And in order to encourage those companies, I want to reduce the tax, and which was reduced to 15%. This was done because India was levying dividend distribution tax at the rate of 20% and not taxing dividend income. From last year, India has started taxing dividend income at the normal rate. To bring parity, now it is being said, it has been provided in this budget that from 1st April 2022 onward, any dividend received from a foreign company will be chargeable at a normal rate, which is 30%, maybe 22%, depending upon the option you have exercised on that issue. The message here is that in case there is any subsidiary company of an Indian company here in US or any part of the world, if you evocate dividend before 31st March 2022, the tax rate will be 15%, and thereafter it will be the normal rate, 30% or 22% as the case may be. Another, I think the demand from the international investor was regarding the joint venture agreement and joint collaboration project they were executing in India. These projects are, when they are done in consortium or in collaboration or joint venture, are by and large done as an association of persons. An association person get taxed at a higher surcharge rate of 37%. So there was a demand from all these people, companies, that these association of persons consist of mainly companies, and that surcharge should not be 37%, because as a company, they are supposed to pay 7% or 12% surcharge. Accepting their demand, now it has been accepted that AOP comprising of companies where all members are companies only, they will be liable for tax rate, surcharge rate of 15% and not 37%. This is another change which is accepted on them. Now, you may also be knowing that India has an international financial services center called Gift City at Ahmedabad. And that center is being developed as a world-class financial hub whereby you can carry on business activity, financial transaction, banking transaction, etc., and absolutely no tax will be payable to Indian authority or Indian government on that part. In line with this, many proposals have been proposed, which may be of much interest, because in case a banking unit is set up there, the income of that banking unit will be exempt. Any transaction done through that banking unit, maybe of leasing also, maybe of interest you receive, a royalty you receive, that will also be exempt for that part. The definition of the leasing, which we was limited earlier to aircraft, that has been expanded to ship also, helicopter, parts of the ship, parts of the ship, parts of the helicopter, and parts of the that benefit also given. One more benefit has been given, that any non-resident who does portfolio through portfolio managed by through a banking unit, his income will also be exempt. Now, this gives a very big option to all non-resident in case they want to do any investment or portfolio management service, PMS, what we call, one can do in International Financial Services Center, and that will be also exempt. Now, coming to the reform in direct and indirect taxes, you would have noticed that India has digitized completely the direct and indirect taxes. All income tax returns are filed online. All GST returns are filed online. All e-invoices are generated online only. Now, in line with this budget proposes two things more on that part. Now, all assessment, which we call audit here in USA, will be faceless. One need not appear physically before any assessing officer. The notice will come on a portal. You need to reply on a portal. And in case need be, then your hearing will also take place through video conferencing only. Now, sitting in US, you can manage Indian tax. My professional colleague, chartered accountant here, if they want to do a tax practice in India and they want to do a tax handling here, they can do sitting here in USA itself. That's another area which has come up. Another reform which has been done is in order to bring transparency, to encourage compliance, and to avoid what we call income escaping assessment. Another amendment has been proposed, allowing taxpayer to update their return in case they have committed an error while filing the original return. There can be a mistake, and this can happen when it is the taxpayer is nudged that there is some information which say that your income is more than what you have declared. That period of 2 years from the end of the assessment year has been given, which will virtually mean a period of 3 years for the person to correct himself that in case he has committed a mistake. And the additional tax is in case this correction is done within a period of 1 year from the end of the assessment year, then it is 25%, and otherwise it is 50% in the second year. That's another change which has been brought out on that part on this issue. Friends, there is no change so far status of a non-resident, otherwise which was amendment was made 2 years back. And there was a lot of hue and cry on that part that in case you visit India for 120 days or more, or what will happen there. To clarify that issue, I may just explain. In case you are in India even for more than 120 days and less than 182 days, but you have been in USA for more than 182 days, your residential status continues to be resident of USA only. Under the US, so long you are a US resident, under the US law, the treaty entered into by India with the USA clearly says that you will be a resident of USA because you are a resident under that USA. You will become a resident of India only when in tiebreaker rule it fails. And in case you have been in USA for 182 days or more, the likelihood is that a tiebreaker rule will be decided in favor of USA, and you will be considered to be a resident of USA, and hence this amended clause will also not be applicable on that part. Another change which may be of much interest to you is the taxing of the income of the cryptocurrency. A lot of debate has been going across the world, I believe, on this issue, cryptocurrencies, and nobody knows how to regulate it. And many people are doing transactions. India is not an exception. Many Indians have invested this money and have lost money and made money also. Now for tax authority, there is a challenge how to tax it. In order to settle this controversy and to bring a clarity that how this income is to be taxed, it is being provided that any income arising from 1st April 2020 onward will be taxed at a flat rate of 30%. And with plus applicable surcharge. And only what is being said is that your whatever is the cost you have incurred, that will be allowed to be deducted from the price which you have realized. And even if you do a barter transaction, still that income has to be computed on the basis of fair market value, and you need to pay tax on 30%. Further, a 1% tax at source is required to be deducted while making payment for such purchases. This obligation is on every person. And the issue arises is in case any person purchases from a resident, this section comes into operation. Similarly, for the purpose of compliance itself, a return and a procedure has been prescribed how it has to be complied with. There may be many issues arising on that part, why India has to do and why the tax authorities say we are not saying it is legal or illegal. The only we are saying that in case you have income, you need to pay 30% tax. India has also taken a progressive step in that direction. As the finance minister announced, that Reserve Bank of India will also be coming out with a digital currency. And this currency, as per the later on the speech and the interview given to the electronic media, is likely to be in next 3 to 6 months, the Reserve Bank of India will come up. Many of you will be having an issue why this should happen, what will be this currency, how this currency will be coming up. For the benefit of few, in case I can spend a few minutes on that issue, what is this cryptocurrencies and why it need to be taxed in this manner and how it is going to help. See, when we in the olden time before civilization, when civilization were getting developed, people were doing barter transactions, giving one product and taking another product. To facilitate business later on, this bullion came where gold and silver was being given in lieu of one product. And people were selling, then they were collecting gold or bullion, whatever it is. And when they were buying, they were using it. Further standardization happened when different kings at their time, they issued coins. And all these coins used to be in this bullion, precious item, gold, silver, whatever it is. And then later on, when the economy got further developed, then the central bank came that we will keep equivalent amount of gold and silver in our vault, but in lieu thereof, we will issue a paper. You do transaction in paper, and as and when you come back, you can give us the paper and we will give you the gold. This was the backing. As the economy developed further, then the percentage of the gold being kept in lieu of the currency being exchanged got reduced on promissory note or a bond they issued now. Now, later on further, when banking developed, you need not carry money, you do not do money, debit and credit in ledger accounts are happening. That's the only issue. Then credit cards also started coming. But now with the digitization happening and with this computer and internet coming up, there's a need that why that there should be a currency. I should be having a currency at all in my mobile phone, which I can send it to you. And but in case I send it to you, it is not like a photo. If I have a photo, I send it to you, and you also have a photo, I have a photo. That's not a currency. It's a thing which is with my mobile phone. Without physical movement, it will go to you. Meaning thereby, when it moves out from me, it is not with me and it goes with you. That is called cryptocurrency, I believe, and that is where the way thing is. And this is what is getting mining and getting developed, and that is why I use to. It is a wallet with me, and it goes out. The way the physically the coin and the rupee got out, it goes out to reach it out. With the result that you don't need bank, you can do direct transaction and you carry everything with you. And the moment you do it, it reaches it out. So this is going to be the future. And India is not lagging behind. And I must compliment the finance minister. Despite all issues coming up in the November and December, she took a bold step. She said, we are going to tax it. And at the same time, India is going to come out with its own currency. That's I think believe, and that's a very big reform that I will say, and India will be in a big league on that part also, because the Reserve Bank of India, when it comes after digital currency, it will follow, because they say yes, it will be a blockchain technology which they are doing it on that part. So these are some of the changes which have been happened. In addition there to what Mr. Manoharan said about it, one thing probably you would have noticed from the perspective of the USA particularly, she made an announcement in para 104 of her speech. World-class universities and institutions can offer their courses in International Financial Services Center in respect of financial management, science, engineering, technology, mathematics, and Indian law will not be applicable. Only the law of the International Financial Service Center Authority will be applicable. This will be a revolutionary change, because world-class universities can now come there and offer their courses. This is a movement which can happen. As we say, India's demographic is 28, and this is not a skilled. We want a skilled labor, skilled people. And in case the world-class university and education are being invited, that itself will be a big change coming out on that part. In addition there too, what she said is that we are going to set up 200 TV channels in local languages, one channel for each class, so as to provide education to the masses. And she has quoted that in the last 2 years, we have seen how students and children have suffered on that basis. I believe that this is again going to be a revolutionary change for such a large population country where it is difficult to reach out to a remote place, because now internet communication will be a student in the farthest remotest place will be accessible and have the benefit of the best of education what a student has in a developed city or in a metropolitan city. That is the way. She has said that we are going to set up a digital library, a digital university through the world. So this change is going to be I will say, a very big change for Indian education. And this will also offer opportunities for the investors outside to look to India, what India is going to do on that part. There are other issues, minor issues, subject to availability time. If few question answer there, I can take it. Thank you, friends.
Thank you, Ved Jain ji, for your detailed analysis, tax analysis. And I'm really very delighted to see we say that Mera Desh Badal Raha hai, and I can see that, yes, exactly, Mera Desh Badal Raha hai. Because when you were mentioning about digitized direct and indirect taxes, so I recollected my days when I was doing my articleship. I used to carry the big books and traveling in Mumbai local train, going for assessment, sales tax and income tax assessment. It used to be a great pain. And definitely, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Let me take this opportunity to read a couple of messages while you were presenting. Again, we got a lot of messages. Jigar Maturia, he says that excellent perspective on the finance digitalization by Mr. Ved, and a couple of different great presentation with focus on improvement for international community. Thank you, Mr. Ved Jain. Great. Thank you, Jain ji, very much. So now I invite Ms. Chandrima Sinha ji from Invest India. Thank you for being here as one of our panelists. And let me introduce Ms. Chandrima Sinha ji. So Sinha ji, she is a vice president of at Invest India. Invest India is a national investment promotion and facilitation agency where she oversees special projects related to promoting and facilitating investment into India. She has been a founding member of Invest India, setting up and developing the sector teams. She leads the PMU managing the National Infrastructure Pipeline for Ministry of Finance and the multi-stakeholder initiative India Investment Grid, which connects global investors with key investment opportunities from both government and private sectors across India. Ms. Sinha has over 2 decades of combined international and domestic experience, primarily at a public-private interface with a focus on attracting private investment flows. Previously, Ms. Sinha was a director IDFC, which is Infrastructure Development Finance Company Limited. She has also served on the board of Uttarakhand Infrastructure Development Company and Delhi Integrated Multimodal Transit System. Ms. Chandrima Sinha ji will be talking about incentive for foreign investors and for startups, manufacturing units in India. All over to you, Ms. Chandrima ji.
Thank you, Pawanji. Is my screen visible? I'm not able to make out.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay, I'll just move to the screen show. Thank you, and thank you so much to ICAI Houston and to the other chapters, and greetings to Ms Aseem ji and my esteemed panelists, and it has been very informative hearing from them. And I'll just quickly take a minute to introduce Invest India to those of you who are not aware. So we are the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency, and we have been a partner with ICAI for the last 3 years in hoping to attract investments to India. And we work very closely with the government and the private sector to assist you in bringing many of your clients would also be looking at. So there we are. And this is an introduction from our side to what we think are the key attractive sectors that the investors from US may be focused on. As many of the speakers have already highlighted, so I'll go quickly, and it is a very basic PPT because I was not sure of how much time I would have. So as the speakers highlighted, that this budget is essentially trying to put India on that high growth trajectory path. So to take India from 75 years to India at 700. And that is what the FM called Amrit Kal. And there is a strong thrust on leveraging technology as an enabler, and also to enable private investments through greater public investments, so crowd in the private investments. And so there's a significant increase. There's a 35% increase on the capital investments. And at the same time, the budget has also tried to walk the prudent path, as many of my fellow panelists highlighted, that it has been a very, very difficult year. But even given that fact, the government has decided to put its strength behind a growth budget rather than being a risk-averse budget. And at the same time, they will try to lower the fiscal deficit, and that remains the target for the next year as well. And the key sectors that have received the thrust of the budget this year are infrastructure, energy and power, which would be possibly an area of interest for our Houston audience members here. The entire the startup, the financial services, and TMT that has seen here. So I'll skip over this because I think it has already been talked about. So essentially, coming on the Gati Shakti part, so what exactly is Gati Shakti? And Aseem ji had also highlighted the National Infrastructure Pipeline before this. So what infrastructure in India has seen over the last few years, that moving from project-based planning, it has been for the first time possibly, and we may be late in the world in this regard, but we are actually seeing a holistic oversight over how the development of various infrastructure sectors are progressing. If you recall, in the previous from the last 5 years, we had smart cities missions, we had Bharatmala, we had Sagarmala, and then we focused for the first time 2 years back under the National Infrastructure Pipeline, the first attempt to actually create a robust repository of all infrastructure projects. And through the project monitoring mechanism, actually the monitoring of physical and the financial progress of the projects have started. And what Gati Shakti hopes to do is to bring a central coordinated planning across all key infrastructure sectors, wherein the major sectors there is a committee of the secretaries to the Government of India that has been formed, and they will be taking a coordinated look at all key projects that would be coming up across sectors. And therefore the lacunae or the gaps, the intra-sectoral gaps could be easily identified. So in this regard, the 7 sectors have been identified that would be driving this infrastructure development going forward. And they would also be supported by the related sectors like communication, storage, and all. So on the screen, you're seeing the key announcement that have been announced in this particular budget, where the announcements range from logistics parks to cargo terminals to railway networks to trains. And the focus of Gati Shakti, and it is the PM's vision, is to bring down the logistics cost of moving goods from India to abroad. As you know, that has been a kind of a area where India has been behind in terms of its competitiveness vis-a-vis other nations, and we hope that in the coming years this gap will be circumvented through the Gati Shakti initiative, where the logistics cost would be brought down by this coordinated approach of all the key 7 ministries that are related to movement of goods. So broadly, this summarizes, and as I said, these 7 engines, which are the key sectors that actually are engaged with movements of goods, railways, roads, airports, ports, mass transport, waterways, and logistics, would also be supported through the IT communications, energy, and social infrastructure. The sunrise opportunities that were highlighted, there's, if you read the budget document carefully, the government has, through various initiatives, has focused on putting India on the trajectory towards the targeting these sunrise sectors. And there is talk of artificial intelligence, geospatial systems, drones, semiconductors, and ecosystems. If you are familiar, we have just announced in December, January, our semiconductor PLI scheme, where performance-linked incentives are being provided for the first time in a huge amount to companies and inviting them to set up their semiconductor fab units in the country and all the allied industries. Then related to that are the space economy, genomics and pharmaceuticals, green energy, and clean mobility systems. These are also sectors which are also seeing high growth rates. There are numerous startups that are already working in these areas, and it is already attracting abundant VC and PE funding. So the budget has tried to focus on boosting each of these enabling factors so that India can take advantage of these sunrise opportunities. So essentially, one of the other key themes is in the budget is moving forward to digital India. In fact, there was one analysis which said that after tax, the Honorable FM actually mentioned digital and online the maximum number of times. So what were these references? If you go back and look at the budget document or any analysis, there is a digital tax there where taxations have been actually eased to enable on digital assets, and also the entire confusion about whether or not India would allow cryptocurrencies has been sorted by introducing this digital tax. There is technology-enabled development across multiple sectors. There is digital learning where universities and distance learning has also been brought in. Schemes have been announced to allow the students and to take advantage in this COVID times. Skill development has also been given a boost for digital learning, startups, fintechs, e-governance, plus associated are the CBDC, which is a centrally banked digital currency. Expanding on these, the government has announced that digital banking units are going to be set up in 75 districts. So this is, the number was commensurate with India turning 75 this year. So BDUs are being set up, and also by this year, the government hopes that our passports will also have an embedded chip, so that would enable ease of mobility for our citizens during their overseas travel. Then that entire virtual digital assets have been very clearly, the rules have been earmarked that they would be taxed, there will be a taxation on the gains. So that clears the confusion about whether digital assets would be allowed in India. And at the same time, India is one of the first major economies to introduce a centrally banked, centrally supported digital currency, or CBDC, and a digital rupee is going to be launched. And at the same time, data centers have been introduced in the infrastructure harmonized scheme, where they have been given the critical infrastructure status that makes them more eligible for attracting greater capital. And that is expected to boost the entire digital ecosystem in the country. Supporting this is also the 5G services are going to be rolled out. There's an optical fiber network is supposed to reach to the most remote areas. And the BharatNet project is also to be supported through public-private partnerships. So there is again an immense opportunity here for the communications companies to come in here, and already we have the major companies which are coming into India to support these services. And this is again an area of future investments that would come in. In the broader area of startups and emerging technologies, as I said, the FM and the government have taken cognizance of the emerging technologies, and they have recognized that India is already playing a big role in the animation, visual effects, and the related gaming and now comic promotion. So most of the big studios in the world already have set up their animation studios in India, and areas like Hyderabad has become a big animation center. So this is also sought to be boosted by encouraging the startups to be coming in. So there's a task force is going to be set up to look into what other activities can be done and to boost the domestic capacity for serving the domestic and the global demand that is going to be seen in the coming years. So we already have a number of startups, given our starting from cricket and other things. A number of apps have come in the last year that have reached a wide user numbers, and we hope that we can boost these. Associated to that, the budget also highlighted that startups would also be encouraged to support the agricultural and the rural enterprise. And these would be supported from the government side by investments by the NABARD, which is the government's agricultural financing agency, and it will be done through the co-investment model. And these startups are expected to boost the entire value chain in the farm production sector and close the existing governance gaps and the leakages. And already we are seeing startups playing a big role in terms of quality control, testing, and a variety of ways. And this is again an area where companies can come in to support, and VC money and PE money can come in. And additionally, on the defense R&D space, as all of you might be aware that this year, Government of India has taken a policy decision that most of the defense requirements would be sourced from within India. And in that regard, 25% of the defense R&D budget has been earmarked to support the startups and academia in India. So there's a big boost in terms of government support for R&D, both in the agriculture and the defense area. Then some of them, these are slightly overlapping with the previous categories, but to talk about in terms of the financing of startups, the long-term capital gains have been capped for high-income individuals and companies. It has been capped at 15% as opposed to what it used to be at 37%. So this seemed to, I think, the industry has also welcomed it. Many of the investors would be able to then exit at the right time, and we hope that this is also going to boost further investments in the sector. The expert committee is being set up to boost more PE and VC investments in the startup sector for India. The tax holiday for startups has also been extended by 1 year. It was previously extended during the COVID time, and now it has been extended till March 2023. And additionally, for investors, there's another attractive option that you may be able to exist faster from companies. And for this, a Center for Proposing Accelerated Corporate Exit, or CPACE, is being set up that will support the winding up of companies, which is currently at 2 years, to bring it to a competitive time span of 6 months. For financing of investments, again, we've already talked about many of these, so I'll just quickly skip over that. Overall, the budget across categories has taken a holistic stance. So as I said, the capex from the public sector side has been boosted up, and that the immense investments across the key sectors is actually supposed to create avenues for further private investments to come in. The entire data center energy storage system is also being enabled by giving it the infra status. Then, as some of the speakers have already highlighted, that in the GIFT city in Gujarat, we're welcoming foreign universities and institutions to be set up, and they will not be bound by the current domestic regulations that have certain no-go areas for foreign investments, but in the gift cities, these would be allowed. The CBDCs again is supposed to boost this. The sovereign green bonds that would be allowed is also supposed to boost the resources in the greening of the infrastructure area. Additional part in this infrastructure for the green economy and the energy sector is the government has announced that it will allow, for the first time, they're looking at thematic funds where in certain sunrise sector, which also includes the area of energy and climate action, deep tech, pharma, agri-tech, thematic funds would be allowed, which will be completely managed by the private fund, private managers, and government share would be limited to 20%, but essentially the government is providing that initial capital that would allow these thematic funds to come up. And additionally from the state side, it is not just a central government thing, the states are also being given greater funds to put in for the capital investment. So again, the state economies would boost for the investments on this side. So broadly, we've covered most of it. In the energy side, as I just talked about, the thematic funds are there, the green bonds are there. Additionally, the government is encouraging greater greener energy and solar manufacturing under the PLI scheme. There's an infra status that has been brought in, and also the large scale infrastructure projects are going to be necessarily seeing renewable energy. So there is a lot of play there for energy companies to come in, because this is a policy area now. And broadly, the overall within the budget, there are some other concrete steps for climate action. So with that, thank you so much. I'll just show.
Thank you. One second. So you may have to unshare your screen, I guess.
I'm trying. Can you? I'm not sure. It's not happening.
Thank you, Chandrima Sinha, for your detailed presentation about the Invest India. And so now, I mean, definitely, it's what I read from different articles. India is third largest ecosystem in the world for startups, and also the concentration of unicorn rank-wise, India is ranked third with more than 85 unicorns in India. So with that, I would definitely like to thank you for your time and your presentation. Now I invite Mr. Swapan Dhairyawan. He's our practicing CPA in the US, and he has a lot of experience. I would say, who doesn't know Mr. Swapan? Everyone knows Swapan. So, and he's been very active with many organizations in Houston, and he was ex-president of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. So Swapan will help us to understand some of the few guidelines related to Indo-US tax formalities. We Indians over here have rental income or some kind of fixed deposit income or interest income in India, and there is always a question: what should we do? Can we take a double taxation credit, or should I file income taxes in India and in the US? So quickly, for our NRI community, he will go over some points. All over to you, Swapan.
Thank you. Namaskar. Dhanyavad. Good morning, everyone over here in Houston and in the US. And good evening to all my panelists, illustrious panelists who have already spoken about this subject. Namaskar, Aseem ji. Thank you for leading this and giving your key comments about the robust India. I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, of course, which has been around since 2004 and has been primarily educating and being part of the small and business corporates to be engaged and to be educated about the tax laws. Of course, we started that in 2012 so that we can be able to make sure that people know about what the nuances are on both the sides. There is still a lot of area of ignorance or kind of a gray area in which people are still living, or in a world in which that what happens or what would happen kind of a thing. So instead of going into the details, because the time is not too long we have, but I will just like to share. First thing is I would like to thank Manoharan ji for having covered very intricately about the global standing of India. Ved Jain ji for having covered the digitization and what it means for urban as well as the rural side of it by introducing the post offices as a part of the core banking system. I would like to also thank Madam Sinha ji for talking about the Gati Shakti thing. To mention to the audience up over here, just a perspective about what has come to be a area of double taxation. Basically, we have US and India has a treaty, and this was way back. 1986 is the biggest year in tax reforms in the US, of course, which was the Reagan era reforms which happened. And India and US signed the treaty, which was in 1989, September of 12, 1989, in which avoidance of double taxation was basically dealt with. So this governs the entire gamut of things, whatever that is. I would like to highlight over here, the Houston CPA community is very strong over here. I would like to thank my other fellow partners like Mahesh Desai, Rimpal Mashruwala, and all of them who have done great job in communicating and educating the community in understanding what it means to have your assets up over there in India and what it means to be reporting that on your personal taxes as a resident and citizen in the US. We as CPAs have to be following the ethics rules. We have to have kind of a disclaimers, of course. You can still keep your CPAs, you can still take your tax advice from your accountant, but be understanding about what the rules are so that you know what has to be reported. The FATCA come into play way in 2014 and 15, and a lot of things have changed since then. We get this question ever so often, that what gets reported, what does not, how do I adjust my taxes? Oh, I do file my taxes in India. How do I use that? How do I get the credits up over here? So there are and plenty and ample of resources, but your to-go should be someone who is knowledgeable, experienced, and who has been able to guide you through this situation. In the recent, this is just the month of January that we are talking about. It's both ways kind of a thing. This illustrious panel and the ICAI, this organization, can be a very fruitful partner in this mission of communicating with our people and our community up over here. Because the reason is we have seen just in this month of January, I just give you an example, that I got at least 3 or 4 calls from people out in India that they want to set up businesses or some kind of a company over here. So there is that demand, but there is the same reciprocity which goes from here to India, because there is a need. People are aging, people have assets. And I see that question just about last week. Someone lost his mom, and he has to have that resource. He doesn't know anything in the banking system over there. He has not filed a tax return up over there, and he doesn't know how to go about with adjusting and making the estate and liquidating that and bringing up the money up over here. There are so many small things which can be involved, and this partnership that the ACAI and of course the chamber, we can be working together to make things effortless and seamless, because there is a big wide field which can be engaged with. So this was my couple of cents, Pawanji, about the wrap up of this. For detailed, we can always meet a tax consultant or a CPA, but of course there is this broad view I just wanted to give for the sake of time and convenience. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
Thank you, Swapanji. Thanks for your guidelines, and we all know that you're always here to help us out, and Houston community is always benefiting with your presence. So now I invite our Vice Chairman of ICAI Houston, Raja Chalasani ji, and in case if there are any question and answers for the panelists, we can ask a couple of questions in the interest of time. And then Rajaji will go for vote of thanks. So yeah, Rajaji, do you have any questions for particular panelists? Then please feel free to.
Well, thank you, everyone. My name is Raja Chalasani, Vice Chairman of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, Houston Chapter. We have a few questions, but I think in the interest of time, we're scheduled to finish at 11:15. So we'll gather those questions and send it to the panelists and get your responses and send emails and so on. So I think in the interest of time, let's conclude this event. So first of all, I want to thank all of you, the participants. Without you, we don't have an event. I want to thank Honorable Consul General of India, Shri Aseem R Mahajan, for your esteemed presence and your support to the ICAI Houston chapter from inception. Thank you, CA TN Manoharan ji, for your succinct and comprehensive overview of this path-breaking 75th Union Budget. Thank you, CA Ved Jain ji, for your enlightening us with the tax impacts of the Union Budget and your unique ability to articulate arcane and complex topics in a simple way. I would like to thank Ms Chandrima Sinha from Invest India for taking your time for enlightening us about the investment opportunities in India, covering different areas from infrastructure to digitalization to startups and climate action. I would like to really thank Mr Swapan Dhairyawan from Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. He's always available and really willing to support. And thank you for clarifying some really fundamental questions about Indo-American taxation issues. I would like to thank Mr. Jagdip Ahluwalia, Executive Director of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, and Ms. Bhavna for all your support and that you have provided in hosting this event and communicating this event. I would like to thank the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce of Greater Houston and the US-India Chamber of Commerce of Dallas and Fort Worth for partnering us and promoting this event. I hope this is the first of many such events going forward. I would also like to thank my CA colleagues, ICAI US chapters across the country who have helped in promoting and communicating this event. And we'll of course, promote many more such events that are useful to the finance community and others interested in finance. I would like to thank, of course, the ICAI Houston chapter members, without whom we don't exist as a chapter. And finally, last but not the least, I would like to thank TechWave, our sponsor, and in particular CA Raj Kumarapu, CEO and co-founder of TechWave, for your continued support for the chapter. And with that, I would like to thank you all. Thanks for taking your time on this Saturday morning for making this all happen. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.